Record. All right, good morning if you're out on the West Coast. It's late morning, 11 o'clock. Good afternoon if you're out on the East Coast. Today we're going to be talking about the top 8 objections that most sellers give us. And as always, when I was preparing these slides for this training, for this presentation, for this demonstration, I always look for inspiration for the slides that I am going to be working on, or the slides that I'm going to use to present my ideas and my thoughts and the strategies and concepts that we're talking about. If you're joining us for the very first time and you're looking at this channel, it's because you've either seen our profile before or you are interested in learning how to wholesale real estate, and that is specifically what our channel tends to focus on, which is the investing in real estate and using wholesaling as an exit strategy. Now, today we're going to be talking about the top 8 objections that sellers have when we are having negotiations or conversations with them. And my source of inspiration was the movie Average Joe's. Yeah, so when I was coming up with the idea, I thought about it, and a lot of times, when you're having these conversations with sellers, it feels like you're playing a dodgeball game and you're trying to avoid some of the questions that they're asking. And so what I did was I went to Google FX, Google Labs, their AI image software, and I asked him to create an image for me of men playing dodgeball wearing satin uniforms, navy blue with neon green and letters that read Dispo on it, and this is what they gave me. So I think it came out pretty good. As always, if you want the slides, feel free to request them, and you can have access to these slides. I'll give them to you, and you can use them yourself. If you are also educating other people on how to wholesale real estate, you can modify them. You can do whatever you'd like with them. So that's the image. Be sure that you like and follow us for additional comment. We're working on all of this content and all of this material for you. And while there's no cost to you, there is a cost of admission, and that cost of admission is a like and a follow. If you are just logging in, please give me a quick thumbs up, a quick emoji, letting me know that the sound is coming through okay. I do have one more favor to ask of you. If you think that there are other people that can benefit from the content that we are sharing, from the information that we are giving to you, please make sure that you share this content with anybody else who is currently involved in the real estate profession, or anyone that is considering getting involved as a real estate investor who wholesales, or as a real estate wholesaler. Share this content with them, right? I'm sure that you can see the value in it, or you wouldn't be here. Share it with them just so that we continue to grow. That's the cost of admission, okay? So like and follow us. Now, number 1. The best way to handle objections is for you to ask questions. This is important. A lot of times people think that you have to be a smooth talker. People think that you have to know all these scripts and you have to know all your answers. And if you're in sales, or if you've been in sales for a number of years, then you have your objection handlers. You know how to handle all of these things. And the truth is, we're going to cover how to handle some of these objections. But the reality is that you really know how to handle objections better when you have asked the right questions. So when you've asked the right questions, you will, and some of these questions are going to be difficult questions because we're going to talk about them. When you ask the right questions, it is much easier for you to handle their objections down the road, which is why you have to become a better listener, right, versus becoming a better talker. A lot of people think that this business is sales and it's all about talking, when really it's more about being a good listener and listening to what people have to say. And the only way to become a good listener is by becoming a good question asker. So if you learn how to ask questions correctly, what will happen is you can sit back and listen, and they will give you the answers that they need so that you know how to provide the service that we provide, which in this case is purchasing their homes. All right, now, if you don't know, I wrote a book. It's called Deal Like a Dove, Dispo Like a Dragon. Deal like a dove. In other words, handle people, with respect and integrity. Take care of them, handle them like a dove, and then deal like a dragon. And when I say deal like a dragon, that is on the disposition side. That means get the deal sold, get it off the books, okay? And in this book, we cover exactly how to build a real estate wholesaling business. It's 400 pages. of how to do this business. This is not, I mean, think about it. To get all of this information into a quick 20-page PDF or into an 80-page, mini book, it's not going to happen. And so what I did was I laid it all out there. You have all the information you need to know on how to build a successful real estate investing and successful real estate wholesaling business. Now, you can purchase it by clicking on the QR code, or you can also visit dove.dispodragons.com, dove.dispodragons.com, and you can purchase it directly there. So if you are more of a listener, there are some people who prefer to listen to audiobooks. A lot of people rather do that. You can visit audible.dispodragons.com, audible.dispodragons.com, and you can get the audio version of this book. I have an amazing narrator and voice actor. His name is Tim Alexander. He helped me do that, and you're going to enjoy the book. It's written in a very creative fashion, even though I wrote it myself, but more importantly, it gives you this information in an easy-to-understand format, and it's themed superhero. If you haven't figured out, the logo that I use for the book is actually the Deadpool and Wolverine pendant, right? So on the left side is the dove, on the right side is the dragon, in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, the left side was Deadpool, and the right side was Wolverine. Anyway, so there's a superhero theme throughout the book. Now, this first image is an image of Jay-Z and Warren Buffett, and I'm sure that you may have heard, but Jay-Z, who is wildly successful in his own right, sought out a mentor, and he went to Warren Buffett, and he basically said, listen, I want to be a multi-billionaire, and I want you to mentor me. And that's exactly what happened. So Warren Buffett mentored Jay-Z. This is a very famous photo now of the two of them in a diner enjoying a shake. It is rumored that Warren Buffett has a shake every day, and he loves his Coca-Cola. And why not? Because his company, Berkshire Hathaway, his investment firm, is a massive investor in Coca-Cola products. So he loves Coca-Cola, and he loves his daily shake. This is an image of them at a diner enjoying that shake. And if you don't know it yet, Jay-Z is now a multi-billionaire, right, as a result of the mentoring that he received from Warren Buffett. And not only that, but there are people within Jay-Z's organization, within Jay-Z's sphere of influence, within Jay-Z's friendship that he has now mentored, and they are billionaires as well, including people like Rihanna and many other people in the entertainment industry and professionals, right? They're billionaires now as a result of that. So what's my point? My point is that if you want to be successful, one of the biggest shortcuts is finding a mentor. Find a mentor to help you get there faster. And within our organization, we have a profit-sharing mentorship that incentivizes the mentor and the mentee to work together, and those profits are then dispersed after the close of every deal, after the close of every transaction. You can learn more about it by going to start.dispodragons.com, start.dispodragons.com. This is not a joint venture. This is an actual mentorship where you have someone that you can call on to help you close your leads, that you can call on so they can help you fill out the contract, so that they can have conversations with your sellers, so that you can get deals under contract, so that they can then teach you how to promote these deals so that you can find buyers, negotiate with the buyers, close the deals, you get paid, they get paid, everybody wins. It is a profit-sharing mentorship, and you don't have to worry about going on Facebook, posting a whole bunch of different messages, asking for help in like 20 different Facebook groups, in like 10 different Reddit subs, in like 13 different LinkedIn groups. I see all the posts. I see people that are regularly seeking help, right? And you know what the funny part is that the ones who seem to be asking the questions are the ones who keep asking for free advice from people. And sometimes they get help, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes the advice is good, and sometimes, honestly, I probably wouldn't follow the instruction that is being given. But the point is that they're trying to find all these different ways to get free advice, as opposed to just going to the source, finding an actual mentor, and having someone help them succeed in this business. And our profit-sharing mentorship is one of the most affordable ways to do it. Go to start.dispodragons.com. Now, let's talk about the top 8 objections that you are going to face when you are talking to a seller. And if you are just tuning in, Again, my inspiration for these slides was the movie Average Joe's and Dodgeball, okay? Because a lot of times when we're talking to sellers and we're dealing with objections, you feel like you're just trying to dodge the questions, right? And really, that's not what this is about. This is about learning how to answer their concerns, how to deal with their objections, not necessarily how to overcome their objections, but how to satisfy their questions so that that way they feel comfortable moving forward with you, right? So we're going to talk about the top 8 objections. Now, before we get into it, I think it's important to note that the best objection handlers are also the best question askers. I don't even know if that's the right term, but they're the ones who ask the most questions. So the people that handle objections the most also tend to be the people that ask the most questions. There are questions that you need to know the answers to in order for you to become more effective at handling those objections. Now, what are those questions? Number 1, and some of these are difficult, and some of them you're going to have to learn how to ask. Do you absolutely have to sell? Right? And some of you are afraid of asking that question because you don't want to hear their response. You don't want to hear, no, I don't actually have to sell. In fact, if I don't get the price I want, then I'll just hold on to the property. No, I don't really have to sell. In fact, I'll just rent the property out, right? You don't want to hear that answer, so you tiptoe around asking that question because you would rather just avoid it, hoping that, they'll demonstrate their motivation somewhere down the line. This is probably the single most important question that you could ask a seller. Do you absolutely have to sell? What you want to hear is yes. Yes, I absolutely have to sell. I have a job transfer. Yes, I absolutely have to sell. We inherited this property and it has to be the funds have to be dispersed to our heirs. Yes, I absolutely have to sell this property. I can't get up and down the stairs anymore. Yes, I have to sell this property. There are way too many repairs to be made, and I don't have the money, the time, the patience, or the wherewithal to take care of it. Yes, I absolutely have to sell this property. I'm facing foreclosure. Yes, I have to absolutely sell this property. There's just too many liens on it right now for me to deal with. That is what you want to hear. That is the first and primary biggest indicator of motivation. You want to hear yes. When a seller tells you, no, I don't have to sell this property, I could just rent it out, they're giving you their level of motivation from the very, very beginning. So you already know that it is going to be an uphill battle. It doesn't matter what objections you overcome. It doesn't matter how many objections you've satisfied. You need to work with the right people, and that means you have to get better at identifying sellers that are actually motivated by asking this simple question: Mr. or Mrs. Seller, do you absolutely have to sell? And then you shut up and you wait and hear. You know what? So when this video is edited, you're gonna hear that bang on the mic. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you absolutely have to sell? And then you shut up. I hit the microphone again for the second time. Do you absolutely have to sell? Yes. Let's move on. Number 2. If you were to remodel, what would you do to the property? Okay, now why is this question important? This question is important because I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. If you were to remodel, what would you do to the property? Here's what this does. Okay, what this does is it prompts the seller to then start to think about the remodel, the rehab, the repairs that they would make to the property. Now, you will get some sellers that are going to say, I really wouldn't do anything to the property. The property's in move-in condition. I've maintained it really, really well. It's a great house. I wouldn't remodel it, rehab it, or repair anything. Right? That is a possibility. That is something that some sellers will say. But there will be other sellers that will say, well, the roof needs to be repaired. The plumbing's a little shoddy. The foundation is there's a crack in the foundation, so there are some floors that are uneven. I'd put some paint on it, probably some new flooring. The bathroom needs to be redone, so I'd probably have to do that. That patio, I really want to redo the patio. The insulation in the attic is just not good. They will start to share information with you if you ask the right questions, and this is a much softer approach as opposed to you just saying, hey, so tell me about it. Have you made any repairs to the property? Hey, so tell me about it. What needs to be fixed in the property? Those come off abrasive and sometimes even a little rude. So a better way to rephrase that question is, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, tell me, if you were to remodel this property, what would you do to it? And then you wait and see what they say. Okay, remodel is a very gentle way of saying repair, rehab. Okay, very, very gentle. It comes off a little bit nicer. So if you were to remodel, what would you do to the property? And you wait and see what they say. Now, the next thing that you're going to ask is, how much do you think that would cost? And you'd be surprised by the different numbers that you're going to hear depending on the seller. Some sellers are going to tell you, well, it's only going to cost me about $2,500 to do it. Here's the thing. The funny thing is that you will get some sellers that will tell you, well, I'd redo the roof. I need some new carpet. The exterior paint is, it's not good. It's peeling in a lot of places. There's some stucco damage that I got to do too. I got to replace the sump pump, and I'm not too thrilled about the electrical wiring over in my home office. I'm not too thrilled with any of that stuff. And then you'll ask them, oh, got it. And you'll repeat what they said. You're going to be listening, and you're going to repeat all those things, and then you're going to say, so how much do you think that would cost you? And then they'll give you a wild answer like $2,500. I mean, they'll give you some really crazy numbers sometimes. But let's say you have a realistic seller who says, I think that this is probably going to cost about 10 grand, 10 or 15 grand to fix up. Okay. Now, what you're doing again is you're getting them to give you their responses. You've now gotten the repairs, the rehab, the remodel that they would want to do, and now you just got a price point out of them. This is going to come in very handy a little bit later on. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Could you do those repairs yourself and just get more money for the property? That is another very important question that you have to ask them. Could you do the repairs yourself and just get more for the property? Couldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you just do that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And then they'll give you a variety of different answers. We don't have the time. We have a job transfer. We don't have the money. We don't want to hire a contractor. We hired a contractor last time. The contractor came in, they started doing some of the work, and then they left us high and dry. There's a variety of different reasons, but you don't know the answer to those questions or to that question until you ask, could you do these repairs yourself and make more money? Wouldn't that just make more sense? There are people that are going to avoid these kinds of questions because in their minds, they're thinking, well, if I'm planting the seed of doubt, if I'm getting them to think that they shouldn't sell it to me, that they should just make the repairs themselves and then fix it and then make more money, doesn't that contradict what I'm really there for or why I'm contacting them? I'm contacting them so that they could sell the property to me at a discount. And Paul, what you're telling me to do is you're telling me to advise them that they should just fix the property up, make the repairs, and sell it for more money. Why would I do that? Because what you're doing is you're eliminating that as an option if they try to use that as leverage down the road. That's why we're covering these things. I started this sessions by saying that the best objection handlers in this business are the ones that ask the most questions, because by asking the most questions initially, what they're doing is they are extracting the information that they are going to use in later conversations, handling the objections that could come up. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, could you do these repairs yourself and just make more money? Couldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? And you wait and see what they say. You want to hear them say, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the cost. I don't want to deal with the contractors. I don't want to deal with the stress. I don't want to live in the house while it's being remodeled. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. So I'd rather just sell it to you as is. Boom. Now you just got it. Now you got them to tell. See, it's different when they say it. When they say it, it's fact. When you say it, it's questionable. Could be true, could be a lie. But if you get them to say those things and you get them to share those thoughts and feelings with you, now it's fact. They just said it. That's the difference. Are you the sole decision maker? This is another very, very important question, almost as important as the first question, which was, what was it? It was, do you absolutely have to sell? I'm trying to get some engagement here, guys. Anyway, are you the sole decision maker? Okay, is there anybody else that's going to make this decision with you? Could it be a husband? Could it be a wife? Could it be a business partner? Could it be other heirs? You need to find out if there are any other decision makers in this process, because if there are, you're going to want to get them all together in one conversation. Sometimes the decision maker isn't even the seller. Sometimes the decision maker is an attorney that they want to review the documents. Sometimes the decision maker is a CPA or a tax preparer who wants to analyze whether or not they're going to get hit by capital gains and whether or not it even makes sense for them to sell. So it's very important that when you are talking to a seller, you ask them, are you the sole decision maker, or is there anybody else that is a decision maker that is going to be a part of this process, so that we can all get on the phone together, so that we can all meet together, so that we can all do a Zoom meeting together. Sometimes that happens too, believe it or not, and people get together that way too. So you want to identify who are the decision makers. Are you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the sole decision maker, or are there other people that need to be involved in this decision making process? That's a very important question to ask. What price are you looking for? Huge, right? Huge. You want to find out what price they are looking for. Now, if you have a seller that says to you, you know, make me an offer, I'll see if it's a good enough offer, I'll take it. That's not a motivated seller. I've said that before in multiple trainings now. When a seller says to you, just make me an offer, and if it's good, I'll take it, and if it's not, I'll tell you. That's not a motivated seller. You want the seller to give you their asking price. If they are telling you, what's your price, that's not a motivated seller. Now, you can respond a wide variety of different ways. And one way that I really like responding is, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I could give you my price, but that might not be in the ballpark that you're looking for. So why don't we just save ourselves a lot of time? What price are you looking for? Or more importantly, what price is it that you won't go below? And if they say, well, I don't really have a price in mind, just make me an offer. If they do that again a second time, again, that's usually an indication that they're not that motivated. But you could then respond with, okay, Mr. Seller, so I'll tell you what, why don't we talk at another time when you do have a price in mind, and I'll follow up with you a little bit later on, because it sounds to me like right now you're probably not in the right frame of mind to sell the property. And end the conversation. Don't be afraid to walk away from the negotiating table if they don't give you their price, because if they don't give you their price, you're going to be pulling teeth from the entire process and during the entire process and the entire conversation. It's just not worth it. Identify the price. Get them to give you a price that they're looking for. How soon would you like to move? How soon would you like to have it sold? How soon would you like to relocate? However you want to phrase it, just make sure you have a time frame, and then give them the time frames. What are we talking about, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Are we talking 30 days? Are we talking 60 days? Are we talking 90 days? Are we talking 6 months? What would make it easier for you? Give them options. Human beings, our brains really don't want to work. They're lazy. Our brain is lazy. It just wants us to sit on the couch and be safe and be comfortable, right? That's what our brain wants. And the minute that you start making the brain work by asking someone a bunch of questions and forcing them to think about, well, when do I really want to have this sold? That creates confusion. Right? People, when they're confused, they don't want to do anything. So I know it sounds like a simple question, like when do you want to move? It's an open-ended question, but you don't want to give an open-ended question. What you want to do is you want to give them choices. 30 days? 60 days? 90 days? What would make it more convenient for you? Let them pick. Let them select. Again, by them picking and by them identifying what time frame, they're giving it to you, so it's fact, as opposed to you telling them, hey, I can close this in 30 days. Is that soon enough? And we're going to talk about why you never want to do that. Where will you move to next? This is a little bit more of an open-ended question, but obviously you're not going to be able to know where they're going to move, so you can't really give them options. Where will you move to next, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? If they have another place in mind, then their level of motivation is much higher than somebody that says, I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going to go to next, right? That's typically not a very good answer. You want to know where they're going to move to next. But Paul, what if they don't live in the property? What if it's an inherited property? Well, then that question wouldn't apply anyway, right? But Paul, what if it's a tenant-occupied property? Again, that question wouldn't apply, so you wouldn't ask them, Where will you move to next? But if you're just having the initial conversation over the phone, these are the type of questions that you're going to want to ask, right? Where are you going to move to next? And then if they tell you, oh, I don't live in the property, it's a rental, well, now you know. The next follow-up question to that one would be, if it is a tenant-occupied property, is, oh, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, tell me, are we going to be assuming the tenant, or is the property going to be delivered vacant? Which is better for you? I like ending my questions with the which is better for you, because that way they get to make the decision and they can, tell me how they'd like to handle it. Why are you selling? Now you can ask them why you're selling. If you try asking why you're selling way too soon, you're probably not going to get a very honest answer, or they're going to give you some it's none of your business type of a response. So why are you selling is a much easier question for the seller to digest when you've already had a conversation and you've asked them, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, the first 8 questions that we covered in this slide presentation. So why are you selling is usually going to be the anchor question. That's probably the last thing that you want to ask after you've gone through all of the other ones that we've already gone through. It's normal for sellers to have some objections. This is something that you are going to have to accept. This is a big decision. For some people, this is going to be the largest asset that they own. And so it's a very big decision for them. And you can't expect them to make such a large decision without them having some questions or some objections that you are going to have to handle or overcome. It is part of the process. People, again, because of our brains, don't like to make big decisions. They don't like making small decisions, let alone big decisions. And so they will try to put this off as much as possible until, you ask the right questions and identify their motivation. And you can do that by extracting information, all right? So it's normal for sellers to have some objections. Let's go over these objections now. Number 1, will this be all cash? Right? That is a normal question. Sometimes some sellers want to know, is this going to be an all-cash transaction? And the best response to that is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you looking for an all-cash buyer? Is that your preferred buyer for this property? And wait and see what they say. I'm not saying that you have to answer every question with a question, but I am saying that the best of the best know that if you give them a response that they don't want to hear, then you could potentially kill the synergy. You could potentially kill the flow of that conversation. So when someone says, will this be an all-cash transaction? And you give them the response of yes or no, or I could be using hard money, I'm not really sure which one I'm going to use. What you want to do is you want to save that for the follow-up question after you tell them, well, are you looking for are you only dealing with only cash buyers, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Is that predominantly the buyer that you want to deal with? And if they say yes, then yes, we can be all cash. Right? Even if you're going to go hard money, technically you could say you could be all cash, because you're going to be getting a hard money loan, and once they get that cash, or once the deal closes, they're going to get paid in the form of a wire. So whether they get paid in the form of a wire or all cash to the title company or their closing attorney, at that point is irrelevant. But you want to hear you want to find out what it is that they want to hear. Do you want an all-cash buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Is that the type of buyer that you want to work with? Wait and hear what they say, all right? Number 2, do you have a proof of, I put proof of piece of fruit just to be funny, but no. Proof of funds. POF. Do you have a POF? Proof of fruit. Proof of funds. If you don't have a proof of funds, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to partner up with a joint venture partner, or you're going to want to partner up with a mentor that does have the proof of funds to prove that they can purchase this property. You need to have the financial wherewithal to be able to buy the property, which is why they want to see the proof of funds. Typically, most sellers aren't going to ask for this question unless something during your conversation with them gave them the impression that you are either new or inexperienced, or you don't have the capacity to be able to close. Most sellers don't ask for proof of funds until you give them a reason to ask you for a proof of funds. So that typically doesn't happen very often, but if it does, again, make sure that you have a mentor. Make sure that you have a partner that you can lean on, right, for their valid proof of funds. Here's the deal. We, as an organization, we will look at every opportunity as a buyer first. So if you have a deal, bring them to us. We will look at them, and if it fits within our buy box, we will purchase it for ourselves. Now, if it doesn't, or we don't have the financial or the mental bandwidth to handle another deal at the moment, we will tell you, and then we will get your deal in front of the right buyers. I'm sharing this with you because that way you know that you have a buyer in your back pocket. In our organization, at all times, we buy in almost every major metro market out there. Our bread and butter deals are typically the 3-bed, 2-bathroom homes, 1,500 square feet on a standard size lot, anywhere between 10 to 15,000 acres. We may go up to 1 acre depending on the neighborhood if that is the norm in that community, but typically standard lots are going to be, $10 to $15,000. As an investment. So that's our buy box. If you have something, let us know. We will purchase it. We'll provide you the proof of funds. You can represent us, and you can make your assignment fee. Okay, just FYI. So if you need a proof of funds, you can lean on us. You can lean on a mentor. You can lean on somebody else to help you. What company do you work for? This is another common question. All right. Now, if you are a part of a team or you work for an organization, a company, then you just give them the company name. That's fine. There is no shame in saying, when you say to a seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm actually not a part of a company. I'm just a small independent investors. I happen to buy homes in this neighborhood, and that's why I'm approaching you. In fact, that comes off a lot easier for them to understand, and more importantly, you don't sound like some shark investor that is buying up all the homes. You've got a lot of people that comment about all the hedge funds that are buying up all the houses, and there are some people that don't want to sell to these big corporations. So when you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm actually not part of a company, I'm just a small independent home buyer, and I happen to buy homes in this neighborhood, in this community, it comes off a lot softer. And look, it's an honest answer anyway. So you don't have to say I'm part of a company if you're not part of a company. Now, if they do say, well, I've never heard of you guys. Let's say that you are part of a team, part of an organization, part of a company, part of, a home buyers. We're part of the ABC home buyers. And they say, well, I've never heard of you. That's okay. Here's a good response to that. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're just getting started. We're a smaller organization. But, 5 years ago, very few people really had heard of TikTok, and now look at them now. So everybody has their first day. We're just getting started ourselves, and that's why we're excited about the opportunity of working with you. Again, honest answer. It paints a picture. We're just getting started. We're excited about working with you, and you've handled their question honestly, with integrity, and it's easy for them to understand that. Okay, and that's a good analogy too. If you just give, TikTok was around more than 5 years ago, but if you just tell them, look, 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, nobody knew about TikTok, and now look at where they're at now. How soon can you close? I love this one. So when someone asks you, how soon can you close, that's not your cue for you to say, I can close in 30 days, all cash, 21 days. That's not for you to give a time frame. People seem to believe that that's your cue. No, it's not. When someone says, how soon can you close, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that's a great question. Now tell me, how quickly would you like for us to close? Or how slowly would you like for us to close? You tell me. And you wait and see what they say. Put it back on their lap. Here's why. If you tell a seller, hey, we can close this deal in 21 days, and then they say, that's too soon. I need to get all of my stuff in order. I have so many things here. I have to sell all these things. I have to put them in storage. I have to trash out the house. It just stresses me out. That's just too soon. What you've done is you've created a disruption in the conversation now, right? You've created a little bit of stress, right? They're starting to get a little anxious by doing that. So you committed to that time frame when really all you had to say was, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so what kind of a time frame would you be looking for? How fast or how slow is it that you would like to close this deal? And you put it back on them. Give them the opportunity to give you the information you need so that you can structure the deal without, putting any pressure or, more importantly, anxiety, creating any anxiety or disruption in your conversation with them. Now, if they say, well, I want a fast close. What if they say, I need this thing closed in the next 7 days, right? So now what? Now it went from the complete opposite, where it's like you were suggesting a 21, 30-day close, and they want a 7-day close. They want it really, really fast. Well, now you're going to have to reverse that, because the truth is, if you can purchase something, if you can get the deal at a ridiculously stupid price where it makes sense for you to close that fast, fine. But if, again, if you're negotiating a marginal price and you're going to have to do something like a novation, there's no way you're going to be able to get it sold in 7 days. So it all depends on the price. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what you're telling me then is you'd like to close this deal in 7 days. Is that right? Yes, that's right. We need to close this in 7 days. Okay. Well, let me run my numbers. Let me see if that's something that we can actually do. And if we can, great. And if we can't, what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll make sure that I tell you right away. All right. And then you evaluate it. You evaluate whether you can do that or not. It's entirely up to you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk to my attorney. All right, so you want to talk to your attorney. Fantastic. Earlier we talked about this. One of the questions that you are going to want to ask your seller is, are you the sole decision maker, or is there anybody else who is going to be a part of this decision-making process? Hopefully at that time they would have told you, I want my attorney to review all the paperwork. And here's the deal. If that's the case, then what I would suggest is that you set up some type of an email chain between you, the seller, and the attorney, and you send the attorney your offer in writing. I have done this many, 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 many times, and the attorneys will review the offer. They will then redact it. They will mark out what they don't want on the contract, and they'll typically send it back to you, and then it's up to you to decide if those terms are acceptable to you and it's something that you can actually work with. And if it's not, then you can actually push back on the attorney, and you can say, no, I'm not agreeable to these terms. Can we add this? Can we add that? Can we add this? And you'd be surprised how many attorneys are actually very amicable, and they're easy to work with once they see that you actually know what it is that you are doing. I haven't had one yet write back saying, hey, I want this clause removed about how you can pre-market the property while you're currently under contract. And again, this is all about disclosure. So if you're using the right contracts to disclose them, that you're not going to have any trouble with the attorneys. In fact, they probably appreciate the fact that you're being more upfront about the strategy that you're going to be using to purchase or assign the property to another end buyer. So when they say, I want to talk to my attorney, fantastic, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I think that's great. Why don't we do this? Why don't we set up an email chain between you, me, and your attorney? And what I will do is I will draft up the purchase agreement, the initial purchase agreement, and I will send it to him and CC you, and we can get your attorney's thoughts on it. What's your attorney's email address? And then you get it right then and there. Get their email address, and then you begin the process and you send out the offer, if that is true. All right. Now, if they say I have other people that are part of the decision-making process, I have heirs, we talked about this. You can set up a phone conversation, you can set up a Zoom call, whatever you need to do to get everybody involved. Number 6, my house is worth more. Okay, this is another common objection that sellers will give. My house is worth more. I see, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So what you're telling me is that you think that your house is worth more than the $300,000 that I'm currently offering you. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay. Now, initially, when we got started, I asked you, what would you do if you were to remodel this house? And you told me that you would put new flooring, you would put new paint, you'd repaint the house, you'd repair the stucco, there's a little bit of foundation damage, and you would do the roof. And when we talked about that, you estimated that the cost of doing all that stuff was going to be roughly around $15,000. So help me understand why you think your home is worth $15,000 more than your neighbor's house that just sold for $300,000 or $285,000. And then you wait and see what they said. All right. Now, again, the better you are at asking questions, the more information that you can extract. If they say it's fact, you use that information later on when they say, my house is worth more. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you said these repairs, you said these costs, the home down the street from you just sold for way less than what you're asking for, and that was a home that was already remodeled, rehabbed, and repaired. So help me understand why you think your home should be selling for $300,000. And again, all this came from information that they provided. This is not information that you provided. This is information that they're giving you other than the comp that you have. Okay? So that's how you handle that objection. I need more money. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if I could get you more money, believe me, I would get you more money. I'm purchasing this property as an investment. I'm going to be putting money into repairing the property and making sure that all the things that you told me that you would do are done so that we can then remodel the property and sell it ourselves. I can't get you any more money. That's the best price that I can offer you. And when I make an offer at a price at which I can 100% close at. You might get other people that may offer you more money, but some of them aren't going to be able to close. And really, that's how you would handle that. That I need more money. Now, here's the thing. Even that was a little long-winded. One of the best, one of the best ways to answer I need more money. The best way is I can't get you any more money, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. The offer that I made for you was my best and final. And then you just shut up. Just shut up. That's the best way to handle that objection. You nip that right in the bud. You just say, I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. That's the best and final offer. And shut up. Once they see that they're not going to be able to negotiate that moot point, they will stop. But if you continue that conversation and you revisit that conversation of I need more money over and over again, and you're like, let me see what I can do. I'll go run some more numbers. If you continue that, then they will continue to ask for money. But if you nip it in the bud early, I can't. That's the best and final offer. That's the best that I can do. Let's move forward. It's different because now they see that you mean business, it's no nonsense, and that it is potentially the best price that you could offer for that property. I need more time. I need more time. Yeah, I can't do it in 30 days. I need more time. I need about 6 months. Well, that's not a motivated seller. Well, what if they say I need 60 days? I see. So you need 60 days, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. Okay. So if you need a longer closing period, typically, here's how it works. I can either get you more money or I can get you more time. So if you need more time to stay in the property, then what's going to happen is the offer is going to be a little bit less than what it is that I can offer you right now if we were to close in 30 days. Because in 30 days, in 60 days from now, the interest rates could potentially adjust. They could go up and it'll cost me more money. So the faster we can close this, the higher the price that I can get you. The longer it takes, the lower the price that I can get you. Which would be better for you? And then you wait and see what they say. They may say that, and once they hear that you'll come down on price if you go for a longer escrow period, they may elect to just go with the shorter time frame, the 30-day or the 21-day, whatever it is that you want to negotiate for. So I need more time. That's how you handle it, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. It's either time or money. So if we can close quicker, I can get you more money. But the longer we have to remain in escrow, the more it's going to cost me in the form of potentially higher interest rates. And so for that reason, I'll have to give you less 60 days from now. And then you wait and see what they say. So which would you prefer? Would you prefer to have more money and close sooner or less money and close a little bit later on? Which would you want? Which would make it easier for you? All right. Now, all of this stuff we cover in our community. It is called the Dispo Dragons Dollar Club. It costs $1 for lifetime access. And in this community, we have everything that we teach here, but here's the thing. You can get this information all over the internet. Everything that I've shared with you, other people share, they just do it with their own flavor, right? My flavor is I happen to use slides. I happen to use, green screen. I happen to use images. I like to use AI. This is just the things that I like to do when I do these types of trainings and I like to do these presentations. Some people will relate to it and some people won't. In our community, what we have is a community of people. It's a tribe of people who all are looking to improve themselves. They are all looking to gain the skills that they need in order to become 6-figure, 7-figure, and even 8-figure real estate investors who use wholesaling as an exit strategy, all of them. And so by joining this community, what you are getting access to is not just the information, because again, the information you can get anywhere, but what you're gaining access to is to a tribe of people who are just like you. They want to learn this information. They want to get better at it. You can learn from them. You can lean on them, and you can succeed with them. And so that is why we created that community. And my suggestion is that you join School, SKOOL, school with a K.dispodragons.com. It costs $1 and it's lifetime access. As a reminder, please make sure that you like and follow us. If you are just watching us for the first time, most of our content is going to be real estate related. And it's going to cover how to wholesale real estate. Over 50% of the people that are watching this video are not subscribers. They're not followers. They're not OnlyFans. And so please make sure that you like and follow the information. And my last request is that you share this information. If you think that there are people that could benefit from what it is that we covered today, share this content with them. There are plenty of other people who are lost in this business. And trust me, I see them. They're on the boards. They're posting, hey, can somebody help me with this? Hey, can somebody help me with that? Hey, how do I get the ARV? What would you do in this situation? And they're getting information from total and complete strangers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that, they could benefit from this information. So please share it. Like, follow, and share. I'm going to add that as a caveat. If you have a deal that you need help with, don't forget that you can always reach out to us. Send me a direct message. If there's information that you'd like to be covered on the next training or on our next session, let me know. We'll create slides for it and we'll post it out there. If you want a copy of these slides, send me a direct message and I can get you a copy of the slides so that way you have access to them too. What time is it now? It's 12 o'clock, almost lunchtime on the West Coast. It's about 3 p.m. on the East Coast. So have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.